Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of F1, the new sports drama racing film that stars Brad Pitt as a race car driver who returns to Formula One after a 30-year absence to save an old teammate's underdog squad from collapse. The film also stars Damson Idris, Kerry Condon, and Javier Bardem. This film is directed by Joseph Kosinski, who gave us Top Gun Maverick and Tron Legacy, just to name a few. Let me start off by saying I'm not a big race car fan. Watching NASCAR and Formula One and all of that good stuff, that just isn't my bag. I never saw the excitement in it. I get that it appeals to a certain demographic of people who truly enjoy it, and I get it. I've been to a race car race before. It wasn't to the level of a NASCAR or nothing like that, but I've been to a race before, and I get the excitement. But as far as sitting at home and watching it on television, it never really appealed to me. And so movies about racing, it just, they are what they are. I think back to Days of Thunder that starred Tom Cruise, which coincidentally was produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, who also produced this film. I thought it was a good movie, but, the racing wasn't something that I was like hyped up for. But it was something about the trailer for F1 that touched me, for lack of a better term. It was something about it that made me excited and hyped up for it. I don't know. I just don't know. So I had to go see it, and on the biggest screen possible, because it just felt like an event. This felt like an event film, a summer film. And my God, I was not disappointed. What an exciting film. This was a real good movie going experience for me. I mean, I really enjoyed sitting down and watching F1. The main thing that really drew me to this film was Joseph Kosinski, and coming off of Top Gun Maverick, and how you felt like you was in the cockpit with Tom Cruise in those fighter jets. It just gave a different level of adrenaline to that film that made it even more exciting than what it needed to be. And I thought that was interesting. And if he was going to take that same kind of vibe and put us inside of an actual race car, okay, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. It felt like you was in the car with Brad Pitt, with Damson Idris. It felt like you was behind the wheel of those Formula One cars, like it was a simulation, if you will, or you was actually in the car. The way they used the camera here, the cinematography in this film is unbelievable. It is top notch, top notch. The revving up of the engine, the curves, every turn they made, every crash that took place, everything, you felt it. You felt it. You felt the electricity running through your veins. At least I was, I was sitting there and I was pressing my foot down like I was on the brake, like, wait. It was that engaging. And that's what you want from a film. You want to feel engaged. You want to be a part of the film. You want to lose yourself in a film. And I completely lost myself in this film. Brad Pitt, this was an excellent role for Brad Pitt. I think this is probably one of his top 5 performances, maybe even top 3, if I actually sat down and thought about it. But I mean, it's really up there. He did an excellent job as Sonny Hayes, this aging race car driver who is just on a, he's the grizzled old gunslinger, if you will, if this was a Western. And he's there to take this young upstart who was played by Damson Idris under his wing. And I can also see where all these rumors are coming from, that Damson Idris is the heir apparent to replace the late great Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther in the MCU, because he had a presence here. Yeah, we seen him in Skyfall. We seen him in, not Skyfall, geez, in Snowfall, that show on FX. The dude can act. The dude's a really good actor, and I think that the best is yet to come from him. He did a amazing job. Kerry Condon did awesome. Javier Bardem, I mean, my God, he's a supporting role here, but it's just his presence on screen. It's something about him. He has a certain level of gravitas that just adds to a film, and he added just the right amount of him to this film to kind of make it legitimate. It's something about him, or something about his character that just made the film that much better. And the final 10-15 minutes of this movie, the final race, whoo boy, you want to talk about excitement, you want to talk about being pumped up on adrenaline. It was that final race. I haven't felt that type of emotion in a movie in a long, long time, and it was earned. They took their time, and it made you earn this a feeling that you got at the end. It was done perfectly, I think. But with that being said, this wasn't a perfect movie. There are parts of this movie that I was a little let down by. Number one, uh, did this movie need to be 2.5 hours? No. No, it didn't need to be 2.5 hours. I think you could have shaved off 15-20 minutes of this movie, and it probably would have had a better flow. And that's saying a lot for a racing movie, but it slowed up, man. It really did. Throughout the film, it's not just one part. It was just certain little scenes here and there that were there, and then once you get to the end of the movie, your mind kind of gravitates to certain parts of the movie. Like, why was that even a part of the movie? You know what I'm saying? It's just certain little things that they kind of set up throughout the film, or mentioned throughout the film, or at one point during the film, and it's never addressed again. It was some major plot points there. I think it was victims of editing, if anything, those little plot points that were sprinkled about and never revisited. And with that being said about the editing was a little frustrating. Certain scenes throughout the film were just chopped up. It was just cut. I mean, a scene would just go, it's just stop, man. It was like at a race, like they had to hit a pit stop. The film is like a Formula One race. You're running a race, you're going, and then all of a sudden you got to go pull into the pit, and it just all of a sudden just stopped, like whoop. We on to the next scene. It don't give you enough time to breathe or let what just happened marinate for a second or two, so you can kind of grasp where we at. But it was just gone. It was moving a little too quick there with the editing. A couple of characters in this film make you wonder why they're there. It was one pit girl who works in the pit uh for the team that Brad Pitt and Damson Idris race for, and kind of an interesting character that they were setting up. Going back to what I was saying a little while ago, it was an interesting character that looks like that they were going to get an arc in this movie, and it kind of didn't. They did. They fixed the problem that they were presented with, but it was just fixed. It all of a sudden the problem solved itself, kind of. At least that's the way the movies set it up, mainly because of the editing. The way this film was edited. I think a lot of this movie is on the ground, and that's saying a lot for a 2.5 hour movie that you left a lot of it on the ground. So it's kind of worrisome there. And there was one major event that happened in the middle of this movie that was pretty major. A crash that took place. There was two major crashes in this film, but the first crash that happened had a conflict that arose from that crash, and it was kind of glossed over. Now the conflict between the two people kind of got resolved, but there was another little sub conflict that happened that didn't get resolved. As a matter of fact, those characters didn't even interact with each other for the rest of the movie, and you kind of wanted them to have that come to Jesus moment, and it didn't happen. And I was waiting on it because it was a big part of Act 2 in the middle of the movie, and nothing got resolved from it by the end, and I was kind of let down by that. To be quite honest with you, I was like, wow, so we're not going to address this? But the film had bigger fish to fry, I suppose. But overall, this was a really good time in the theater. Really good time. Do not, if you haven't seen F1, do not wait till it comes on HBO or Netflix, wherever it's going to pop up on after its theatrical run. You need to go see it in the theater. You need to feel this movie. You need to experience this movie. There's no other way to experience F1 but in the movie theater. F1, which stars Brad Pitt, gets a letter grade of a B+. Yeah, this was probably the best summer movie so far. I gotta give it that title now, because when we get to July, which is a couple of days away, it's going to be a murderer's row of films that come out every single Friday. So they better hold on to this title as the best summer movie of 2025 so far. But yeah, F1, pretty doggone good. I would love to know, did you go check out F1 and how did you like it? Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of F1. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.